Welcome to the Cyber Journey Show, presented by CyberX. I am your host, Daniel Pinsky. This is the one and only place where you're going to get key learnings and insights from cybersecurity leaders and entrepreneurs. We look to our great leaders to model for us, to show us how to think, how to act, and how to behave. And my goal is that by bringing to you their experiences and their learnings from their journey, well, we can apply those to ours and grow not only as individuals, but as a community, as a nation. So, Cyber Journey Nation, let's get ready to grow. Our featured leader today is incredible. She's the founder of the CyberToronto Conference, former president of the IC Squared Toronto chapter, recently named as one of the top 20 Canadian women in cyber, and recently honored by New York University as one of the top 30 under 30. So let's meet my friend and soon to be yours, Victoria Granova. Victoria Granova, welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Daniel. This is so exciting.
Oh, it's our pleasure. I was just mentioning it's only our third or fourth time trying to do this over the last 3 to 4 weeks, but things come up and that's the way it is. But we're here now. So, let's take advantage of this incredible opportunity. I look at your career as seeing somebody who's enjoyed a lot of success already. You're founder of the CyberToronto Conference, former president of the IC Squared Toronto chapter, named as one of Canada's top 20 women in cyber, and most recently named as one of York's top 30 under 30. So to me, that's a lot of success, and you should be very proud of that. What is maybe one thing that you believe about becoming successful that others might or might not?
Oh, interesting question. Thank you so much, Daniel. First of all, such a warm welcome. And such kind words. Honestly, I've benefited from a lot of mentorship, and I know we're going to go to detail about that a little bit later. But one of the things that I believe about careers in general that's a little bit, might not be as mainstream of a thought or a belief, is in terms of changing careers or changing roles, but more frequently than is average. So I believe that there's nothing wrong with changing roles or moving teams or even companies at times, if that's what you think will make you successful or happy in your career. Cybersecurity especially is extremely fast moving and really quickly evolving as a profession. And it's pretty easy to stagnate, I think, or become not so much up to date if you're in one job, one company for a very long time. So if I'm thinking of, if I were to build a team, I'd very much rather have someone who's seen a lot of places, seen a lot of problems, because the skill to handle the next big problem is in that kind of diversity of experience, and definitely, and doesn't all have to be in cyber, especially. But that's definitely something that I've done, I think, quite a bit in my career. Is I've tried a lot of things, tried a lot of different domains under cybersecurity, and actually switched into cybersecurity from a completely different field, which is accounting. I used to be a financial statement auditor, and I did some tax as well, and then hard switch, or it seemed like a hard switch into cyber. So I definitely, that's one of my beliefs, and I definitely encourage, if you are passionate about cyber, do not hesitate to try a couple of things. I don't think it's a bad thing at all.
Yeah, and we're in the same boat. My career has taken a very similar path to yours. I was at CIBC for about 10 years. And within those 10 years, I moved around about every 2 years, right? And that's how I got experience in governance and risk and internal audit, and incident response and vulnerability management. So I agree with you 100%. I love learning and growth and challenge. And I find that if I'm in one place for too long and it becomes a little too easy for me, then that's a kind of my flag that maybe it's time to move on and find a challenge elsewhere. So I find it interesting that you said that you were in accounting. Can we unpack that a little bit? Because there might be people listening right now that are in a very similar situation to the one that you were in, where you were in obviously not a cyber field or a non-related field, and then you decided to jump into cyber. So what was that journey like, so we can learn from it?
Oh, it was super exciting and kind of scary at the time. So I used to work at a very or I'd say a mid-sized company, accounting firm, kind of your standard setup. You know, you work when you work on customer files, the client files, and then you charge billable hours, and that's kind of the model for these accounting firms. So that was really my life was going to be in auditing forever. I loved audit, still do, mostly because it's such a cool experience to have. If anyone's been in audit before, you work directly with a customer with like high levels in the organization. It's really, really fun. And then you end up working with a lot of big teams, but that's besides the point. What happened in my experience is that I was doing accounting things, right? That was going to be my life forever. Didn't really have an IT background. I think I only took one programming course ever. And I was actually inspired / scared into cybersecurity when I, at this firm that I will not name, of course, I came to work one day, and I came in an hour earlier than everyone just to catch up on some work. Big mistake. I'm just kidding. But I showed up to work, and
that's called ambition.
I was like, yeah, I'll be a good worker today. I'm going to catch up on something. And then I couldn't open any of my files, and I had no idea what was going on. So I navigate to the folder where my files were, and all the extensions seem to have been changed. And for those who are familiar, this was a ransomware attack. Everything had been encrypted, and I, with zero experience in this kind of domain, had no idea what was going on. I was thinking, was it me? Did I click something? Did I click an email? How does this thing work? And also, how dare they? we're trying to do good work here.
The nerve.
There's the nerve of them. Yeah, and right about this time, in a few months, so I was really impacted by this. We got the third-party IT folks involved, and they restored from backup, and that took very many hours. And then, over a day at that stage. But I then that fear stayed with me. So in a few months, the York University actually came up with a cybersecurity program, the inaugural class of the certificate, and I joined it. And from the very first class, I was like, my eyes were opened. I was like, I can see the gaps. I can see what needs to be fixed. And it was just like, it was eye-opening. It was amazing. And it was really scary. So anyway, I marched in to the company owner's office and said, hey, we need a cyber person in-house, and it needs to be me. Wow. And then I started a training program and wrote up IT policies, and anyway, the rest is history. And then I got into CBC and into a full-time cybersecurity role, and that was it. That was also a great experience. But
you really jumped both feet in then.
Oh yeah, the passion and the fear really drove me. But it's really cool. Cybersecurity is such a cool field that I forgot how fun it is to learn. Honestly, I thought, I didn't know that studying could actually be fun. And cyber just took me, and didn't let me go. And I've been here ever since.
Yeah, it was interesting. You mentioned that obviously in university, similar to yourself, I thought back then I wanted to be an accountant. And it was funny, I got a summer job working in an accounting firm in the IT department. And that, they introduced me to like networking and, Linux and kind of security in general. And yeah, I agree with you. It's kind of my eyes open, and I saw the light, and I've never looked back. We're lucky that we're in an industry where, because it's so constantly is changing, that, we never get bored. There's always something new to learn. There are always new goals to achieve and to reach for. So yeah, we're pretty amazing, and we're pretty lucky that way. Now, one thing that you mentioned a little bit earlier was something that was interesting to me, is you mentioned about having how important it is to have mentors. And I don't know about yourself, well, I can certainly reflect, one of my most important relationships I've ever had back when I was in CIBC is somebody saw something in me, and he did mentor me over the course of a few years, and he really opened my eyes to things like personal growth and leadership. And for me, is probably the most important personal, professional relationship I've ever had, to be completely honest. I mean, you mentioned it, so it's something very close to my heart. What about yourself? Who's been a very important or impactful mentor on your life?
Oh my goodness, so many people. I must say, like, I've been very lucky to have many mentors in my life. There that looked at that contributed to different aspects and different perspectives to kind of my worldview and the way that I approach my career and so on. So just naming quite a few, but this is not an exhaustive list. I just shout out to Jeff Clark, who was my instructor back in York University in cybersecurity. But then we kept a strong relationship, and then actually worked together at CIBC afterwards. And then this was like in my role after the first one in CIBC. Shout out to Neil Begin, who was my first full-time role boss. Dr. Adifi Mashtan, Adi, she's also amazing. She's the director of Cybersecurity Research Lab, also currently my PhD supervisor. I'm doing PhD part-time. Jennifer Ledlaw, who also was a great impact. But I also want to give a big shout out to actually my co-founder at CyberToronto, who's also my spouse, Stefan Shetty. He's been the biggest influence and a constant supporter of my professional life. Just been constantly guiding me, and also helping me be like a stronger person, standing up for myself a bit more and advocating for myself a bit more, because that's not a strong suit of mine. So that's been, I've been very lucky in the people in my life.
Yeah, it's always nice to have those people that not only support you, but might see something in you before you do, right? Because that's what it's about. It's such an important relationship. The person I was referring to was Tom Briscoe, who he was a VP of internal audit back in CIBC. And he really opened my eyes to, again, personal growth and leadership and wanting to be better. And a day doesn't go by that I don't think of him. He's retired now, but he's meant a lot to me in my life. And so back to mentorship, a question that I do get from time to time is, how do you find a mentor? Like, what kind of advice or guidance would you have to people who are kind of thirst for that kind of relationship, but maybe don't know where to look?
Oh, that's a great question. I find that the strongest, I guess, mentorship relationships are the ones that are they're not defined as that. Just people that you come across if you meet people in person, or you find people on LinkedIn and you're fascinated by their life, and you just start asking them questions, or start ask for something small, like a 10-minute, 15-minute call, just to get to know them, and being it's this making friends, reaching out and being genuinely curious about what they're up to, and then in turn, telling them about what you're up to. That can be a strong foundation for a long-term friendship, which is what a mentorship relationship as well is that strong, the strong long-term kind of relationship. It's really, really important to go in with, with no really expectations, or, with kind of an honest kind of curiosity, and not expecting anything in return other than, maybe a little bit of discussion. And it doesn't have to be something where you meet every week. It could be something that you support them on LinkedIn if they post something, that kind of thing. It should be kind of a low pressure kind of start, because that's where the most interesting things, the interesting relationships can bloom.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, like, we formally met at least once a month. But yeah, it's about having that opportunity to learn from somebody who has been there and done that and may have seen certain struggles. You can leverage that experience, so then you don't have to fight the same fight, right? You can actually learn from their experience. And I think about all the amazing advice that he gave me over that time that we had a formal relationship. So, what is, for you, what's that best cybersecurity advice that you've ever been given, or maybe that you've ever provided for somebody?
So we in cybersecurity are familiar with the term, right? People can be the weakest link. Sometimes people are saying people are the weakest link.
Generally, that's the issue.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Because if we're securing people, processes, technology, people are at the heart of all three.
Absolutely.
But I must say, like, the thing that I really emphasize, especially in my talks and my research as well, is to do with human-centric security, is seeing humans as having the biggest potential to be the biggest influence on security, to be the strongest layer of the security defense in depth. We need to invest in humans, because that's It all starts and ends with humans, with ourselves. We are the human factor. It's so important to invest in that component.
So let's tease that out a little bit. How do we do a better job of investing in and acknowledging that human aspect? Because I agree with you. I tell my team all the time, if there is an issue, my experience has taught me, it's always the person. And in most cases, it's probably not a very strong relationship that you have with that person, right? And it's generally a communication or relationship issue. So how do we do a better job of developing that in people, in our people?
Oh, for sure. There's so many aspects to address there. It's such a great topic. We can definitely talk about this for many hours. The first thing is investing or seeing humans as the biggest asset as well to our organization, making sure that the people have a positive environment, a safe environment to do the work in, having the basics of making sure that there's mental health support, and that we're people are not burning out our people, because such a big problem in cybersecurity, especially in the industry. But other aspects are looking at the security perspective, education, making sure that education is ingrained, and that ownership over security is ingrained in every single role in the organization. And that is, it's easy to say and very difficult to execute. And
Absolutely.
It's so important. But yes.
Yeah, pushing that accountability down. And we've never really talked about this, but I'd imagine we agree. The accountability lies with those people and the business, in my opinion. They need to have skin in the game. And by doing that, they're going to own it, and it's going to be more important to them. So yeah, I definitely agree with you 100%.
Sure, for sure. Gone are the days that the cybersecurity team does cybersecurity. Everyone does cybersecurity.
We're facilitators. we can help, we can guide, we can bring people together. But it's only those people that can really make those types of decisions. I agree with you 100%.
Absolutely. It starts with every single one person.
Oh, absolutely. It's absolutely. And like part of being able to grow our people and kind of helping them to get the feeling that there's psychological safety so that they can bring their whole selves to work. Mm-hmm. I don't personally believe that there's like two of us, that there's like a work Daniel and then there's like a home Daniel. I want all of me and anybody who reports into me and anybody in my organizations to bring their whole self to the organization. I want them to feel psychologically safe to do that. Mm-hmm. And that is the way that we get the best out of our people from a cyber point of view and just in general.
100%. Yeah. Well said, for sure.
And part of that, I think, is growth. And I think as leaders, we're constantly looking to grow, and we're constantly looking to find those areas that we believe we have to improve in. And so then I turn to you and I ask you as a leader, what are those areas of focus for you? And what are those areas that you believe we all should be focusing in to level up ourselves?
In terms of leadership skills and capabilities? So for sure in cybersecurity, we, I think under-index, or historically have under-indexed on soft skills as an area of development and focus. And I'm seeing a bit of a change in some companies who are starting to focus on soft skills and development and giving opportunities to folks to work with other teams and present, to leadership and have leadership over, whatever projects that they're leading, which is really great. But that's one thing that is not easily taught and it's not easily learned, especially relationship building as a skill. It really is a skill. It takes a lot of practice. It's not something that a lot of people are innately born with. Definitely not me. It took a lot of practice to learn how to, approach people in a way that builds a foundation for strong relationships long term. And that took practice and reaching out to people and, even starting with something small, like asking for a coffee chat. Maybe the very first professional coffee chat that you have would be, very awkward and, not that fun. But with every subsequent one, it's going to be easier and easier. It just takes so much skill and practice. And that's one thing that I think people should focus on more, because as I think you mentioned, the foundation of everything is relationships. So that's something that we really need to focus on as professionals.
I agree with you 100%. And I don't even like the term soft skills. Simon Sinek, who's one of my kind of virtual mentors, I've read a lot of his stuff. He actually refers to it as human skills.
Yes.
I actually think he's right on the money there. And if you think about it, as we move up in our organizations, kind of those hard technical fingers on keyboard skills those skills become less and less important. And it is those softer human skills that we have to rely on to get anything done. So it really goes back to that relationship building, or the ability to build relationships and foster trust, because it is through that trust that we actually rely on people in order to get anything done, right?
Mm-hmm. Cannot do everything yourself.
Absolutely not. It's impossible. It's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know for me, being, in technology, I'm very happy to say that, I'm an introvert by nature. Well, obviously, I kind of have to be extroverted, certainly at work, because I believe in that relationship building. But being an introvert, all that means is when I do things like this podcast, or I do things like a conference, or I give a talk, it saps my strength or my energy, which is fine. After that, I go to a place and I re-energize and I recharge. So that's all it really means. And I mean, if you're interested in this, actually, our first episode of this webcast, I interviewed Kat Code, and one of the topics we dove into was being an introvert. And I think there are a lot of people in cyber out there who are introverts, and I think that's okay. And I think there's a stigma out there that, being an introvert, is negative, or it makes you less than. But that's not true at all.
Some of the
leaders of all time were introverts. It's more about understanding what that means for you and how to manage being an introvert to your benefit. And I think that's all it means, right?
Also, shout out to Kat. She's amazing as well. Yeah. Woohoo! Yeah, I'm an introvert as well, and it resonates, everything that you just said. Yeah, that's all it is. It's just energy and preferences, right?
Just manage your energy and your preferences.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. Having time to recharge is especially important. I find, like, big events and conferences during a work week, like, I need some evenings off after that.
Absolutely. Just read a book. Well, at least for me anyhow, it's all about reading and podcasting and doing some of the other things that I do. But yeah, it's just knowing how to recharge. And that's all it is. So you can show up as your best self when it matters most, right? That's all.
Exactly.
So, I mean, when you look back at your career so far, what so far has been the keys to you rising in your career? And what are those tips that you would give anyone so they could rise in theirs?
If there was one thing that I can point to, is just consistency. Being consistent in whatever endeavor it is, or a thing that you're trying to work on. So consistency in building relationships, like we just mentioned, maintaining those relationships, not letting them, peter out. That is extremely important to have that consistency there. If it's a skill that you're trying to build, having a consistent schedule of keeping up that skill as well, because if you don't use it, you lose it, is extremely important. So, but going back to relationship building, that was my biggest strength. Having and maintaining a network is one of my biggest strengths, and allowed me to also build a pretty awesome community through CyberToronto and CyberToronto chapter before this as well. So I think that's the major part, is if you're thinking of doing something, make sure that you schedule in time. If you're like me and you like calendars, then schedule it literally into your calendar. Reach out to this person, or it's if you go on LinkedIn for this many minutes a day, or go and support some people, and of course making sure that you're keeping yourself recharged as well. But yeah, consistency, I think, is the theme of my career. It's really helped me grow and keep growing. I think keep being uncomfortable and keep growing.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I agree with you. I'm a calendar person myself, and I think consistency or diligence or focus is the key for most things in life, right? You focus on one thing until you're successful in that area of your life, and then you move on. So yeah, I would completely agree with you. I mean, as we're growing, you and I, as we're growing, every now and then we stumble, we fall, we fail, but that's the opportunity for us to step back and reflect and pivot and grow and mature as people, as individuals. So can you maybe tell us about a time where you've stumbled, or maybe you failed, and how did that failure shape your life? And how did it inform how you came back?
For sure. So I have a bit of a general, I guess, statements or advice. There's one thing that, as for cybersecurity, that I found that really the lessons learned portion of any cybersecurity event or project or anything is like lessons learned is that most critical step. And being, it's one of the interesting fields where being comfortable with failure and leaning into failure is how we would grow as a cybersecurity professional, or even as an industry. Because if there's some failures within, say, a team or a business unit, there's a sign that you can improve something. But then lack of failure just means lack of visibility, which is super interesting. And I don't think this translates in too many other industries. But it doesn't have to be like a breach, or it could be something like a process failure, or something that there was a hiccup in how things were handed over from one team to another. It could just, like, any failure should be treated as a success, something that we can take and learn from and improve constantly. There's my story about the ransomware attack that impacted one of my long time ago employers. That was a failure that then caused a series of events where I was able to build a foundation of cybersecurity and build up the documentation, build up the practice, and actually have people recognizing very complex phishing attacks and being not succumbing to them. Amazing stuff, but using, making sure that good, don't waste a good crisis. Don't waste a good, it doesn't have to be a big crisis, it could be a small crisis.
Yeah, when I tell my teams, and again, I agree with you 100%, is personally, I don't believe in win and loss. I believe in win and learn. And if we take the opportunity of a loss or a failure and we actually learn from it and we come back better, then we haven't really lost anything. And I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. Failure shapes our lives if we take advantage of the failure and we turn that that wound into a wisdom, right? And we come back better. So you were saying that ransomware attack for you is kind of a particular failure or something that you learned from professionally.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. There's so many interesting aspects to that. Kind of shed light to. I was able to learn from mistakes of, I guess, myself, but also others. In that respect, I can go a little bit more in depth about that. So it was interesting because that event, me stumbling across this thing, kind of shed a light on, for example, lack of documentation about acceptable use policies for using your work computer. Even things like having local admin privileges on computers that they shouldn't have. Even physical security. How does the office, how is the office physically secured? It's sparked a lot of interesting kind of dynamics and shed a light on, the fact that maybe now is the time to focus on cybersecurity and invest, internally into cybersecurity. And I was able to use this as a catalyst to change a lot of minds and teach a lot of people. And it's really cool. But it also taught me that, if nothing happens, if things are quiet, that's not necessarily a good thing. Always looking out for those anomalies and issues, and improving the underlying processes and people technology along the ways is so important. And of course, I've made plenty of mistakes in my own career. So, and just, digging deep into those mistakes and trying not to, I'm a very anxious person, by the way. I get very anxious about small things, small errors, but using that anxiety in a positive way, really leaning into the what can I improve? What good does this do me or do the organization, is really helps me kind of reframe and make things like this productive and really cause big changes to my own approach or to the teams and organizations I work with.
Good. Yeah, I know for me, something that I take my teams through, certainly at the end of a process, and I try to make most of our activities or processes iterative, is we'll go through something called an after action review or hot wash or lessons learned, which is terminology I got out of a really good book written by a former Navy SEAL. And so when you're looking at that thing that you just done, maybe it was a process, maybe it was an audit, is you'll start identifying within categories, and the acronym is KISS. So what should you keep doing? What can you improve? What should you start doing? Should you stop doing? And the important part is, don't do it in isolation, don't do it in a bubble, but actually include those stakeholders that were part of that process and really take that feedback from all of those people. And then it gives you an opportunity to come back better and iterate and continuously improve.
That's awesome. I just made a note as you were saying that, because I know
I can send that to you.
I know the keep it simple one, but
I
like this
know
one.
you've
This
never
is
heard
really
this
useful.
one.
This one's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep
So
doing,
yeah,
start doing, stop doing.
Improve, start, stop, and it comes out of a book written by a former Navy SEAL commander.
Awesome.
So really, I've used this all the time. It's very, very beneficial. My team loves it. And yeah, like to your point, if you're looking for ways to, continuously improve within your organization, it's a good way to do it. And just, everybody loves it when we do it. So this has been amazing. I would say we're down to kind of our final 5 and just a wrap up. So final 5, I ask everybody these questions. So if you were meeting with somebody, maybe a recent college graduate, or maybe somebody who's been in the industry for a year or two, what would be that one key life or career advice that you would give them?
Oh, absolutely. The main thing is that not all work environments are created equally, and it's really important to learn what makes you happy, how you add value, and what kind of environments suit you to where you can thrive and add that kind of value. And the world is a big place. There's a lot of cool, like small enterprises, big enterprises, not-for-profits, like government organizations. There's a ton of interesting things to do out there, and it's really important to know what makes you happy, because a happy employee is a very productive employee, and also that's from an organizational perspective, but from a personal perspective, it will make you feel fulfilled and appreciated by your environment, colleagues, leaders, and so on. So it's learn what makes you happy and seek out those environments that let you thrive.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the longer my career has gone on, the more obvious it is to me how important culture is and fit is and like happiness is, and you seek those things out. Mm-hmm. It's not worth it to struggle if you're somewhere where that's you don't see a fit or you're unhappy. It's not worth it.
I agree.
All right, so what is one book that you'd recommend?
Okay, so this is not a cybersecurity book.
That's okay,
but it is the Phoenix Project. And so it talks about IT DevOps, helping business work with technology and vice versa effectively together. And I must say, and it touches on cybersecurity for sure, in a very interesting way. I'm not going to spoil it, but it really looks at the importance of analyzing root cause, keeping your goals at the forefront, but also looking very critically at how processes flow and workflows flow from one, and how handoffs happen. And so it's such a very cool way to it really helps you kind of step back and view your role in a bigger context. And that's one of the attributes of a leader, is having that high level overview, that perspective. So really recommend that one, Phoenix Project.
Thank you very much. What is one podcast that you'd recommend and why?
Great question. I don't actually listen to podcasts very frequently, but I do go to a lot of community events. So things like, CyberX, of course, has a lot of events on the go. So then CyberToronto chapter has monthly events, OWASP Toronto chapter, Task. I could name many, but those are the ones that I attend, and I learn from professionals in specific fields. That's where I get my my up-to-date information about the industry in current state.
Perfect. And finally, what is that one key takeaway from our whole conversation that you would hope somebody can learn today and apply tomorrow?
If you have a passion for something, go for it. There is a spot for you there. You can find it. So believe in yourself. That's the biggest thing.
Beautiful. And on that note, so how can we learn more about you, what you have going on, and how to connect?
So I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm also on Twitter at Victoria Granova. So if you find me, please mention this podcast, so I know where you heard from me or about me. That'd be awesome. But yeah, thank you so much, Daniel. This has been awesome, and the CyberX team.
Awesome. So just remember, everybody, you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. Today, you're spending time with Daniel and Victoria. Victoria, I just want to thank you for sharing your truth, your wisdom, and your value with us. And from Cyber Journey Nation and everybody listening, we just want to say thank you and take care.
Thank you so much. This was such an awesome opportunity. Thanks, everyone.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode as much as I did. There's so much content here which can help us become more effective leaders. My top 3 takeaways from today's show: relationship building. We have to foster and nurture and cultivate our relationships. They form the backbone of our careers and our success. And when it matters most, you will reap what you sow. Number 2, mentorship. Take genuine interest in other people if you want them to take genuine interest and pour into you. My suggestion is take the risk. Find somebody who has been somewhere that you haven't and just introduce yourself. And in most cases, I think you'll find out that they're going to be flattered. Finally, failure. Our failures shape our successes. Like Thomas Edison said, I failed my way to success. Bill Gates said, I will learn more from my failures than I will ever learn from my successes. Failures are part of growing and part of maturing, but only if we take the opportunity to learn from them and turn those wounds into wisdom and those stumbling blocks into stepping stones. If you found this show useful, I ask you just to tell one person in your circle that this show can help them on their journey too. Please leave us a review. I want to know what you liked, what you didn't like, and how we can improve. Your input will shape what you hear and what topics we cover. And finally, Cyber Journey Nation. Until next time, keep learning and keep growing.